Welcome to Yuno and Kenzo Koga, where ancient wisdom meets modern life.
Subscribe now and join us on this journey of awakening. If this resonates, tap like and share it with someone who would appreciate a moment of peace today. And feel free to share any thoughts or reflections in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something truly profound, but also, well, famously elusive, Zen.
Yeah.
Many of us hear about Zen, we get intrigued, maybe we look for definitions, some kind of system, right? But almost immediately, we sort of hit a wall. You find yourself trying to grasp it with your mind, with words, and it just doesn't quite work. Our aim today really is to explore why that is and maybe find a different way in.
That's exactly the point. We have to start right there because the whole essence of Zen, as Alan Watts put it so well, it's not about thinking deep thoughts about things. He famously said, Zen does not confuse spirituality with thinking about God while peeling potatoes. Zen is just peeling the potatoes.
Just peeling the potatoes.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not just a clever saying. It's pointing to a fundamentally different way of engaging with life. It's about stepping into, well, a kind of freedom that comes from trusting the universe, not just understanding it intellectually.
Okay, let's unpack that. How do we even start to, get a feel for something that seems designed to slip away from language? So our journey today will look at why Zen seems to, well, have to go beyond words. Then we'll explore this idea of trusting the universe, maybe like floating in water, and also the dance of opposites in life, light and dark, sound and silence, and how understanding that might help us let go of fear and live more freely.
And we'll definitely touch on some surprisingly simple ways to actually bring this sort of no hang-ups approach into your everyday life.
Great. So let's jump right into that first point, Zen being beyond words. There's that wonderful story, isn't there, about the Zen student.
Oh, yes, the one who quotes the poem.
Exactly. He's eager. He wants to show his teacher he gets it. He recites, "The voices of torrents are from one great tongue. The lines of the hills of the pure body of Buddha." Beautiful lines.
Very poetic.
And he waits for the teacher's reaction. You'd expect maybe a nod. Ah, yes, profound. But the teacher says something quite different.
He says, "It is said," sort of acknowledging the quote, "but it's a pity to say so."
A pity to say so.
Yeah, it would be, of course, much better if this occasion were celebrated with no talk at all, which must have been quite deflating for the student.
Right. But why? Why is it a pity to say something seemingly profound and true?
Because, well, that response goes right to the core of it. Zen isn't a philosophy. It's not a doctrine. It's not something you believe in the way you believe in, say, a scientific theory or a religious creed. It's a direct experience, a way of being, and you simply can't bottle that up in concepts or words.
So the words themselves become the problem.
In a way, yes. Any words we use are just like signposts. They can point the way, but they aren't the destination. They're meant to show the limits of thinking itself. It's not an intellectual net, You can't just cast it out and catch the fish of reality.
And what happens if you try to use that net?
Well, the fish, in this case, reality itself, is more like the water. It just flows right through the net. The moment you try to define it, label it, hold on to it with your mind, PFFT, it's gone. You've missed the living, flowing quality.
So the teacher wasn't saying the poem was wrong.
No, not at all. It was that the act of saying it, of turning it into a concept, pulled the student out of the direct, wordless experience of the hills and the sounds right there in that moment. It encourages immediate presence, not just thinking about presence.
Which leads to a really interesting place. If we can't catch reality with words, if our usual tools of definition don't work, and everything feels so, well, fluid and uncertain, what are we supposed to do? This feels like a good place to bring in that central metaphor you mentioned earlier. The universe is like water.
Exactly.
Think about being in water. Really think about it. There's nothing solid to grab onto, is there? It's all moving, shifting.
Constant flow.
And we humans, we tend to crave solidity, certainty. We want firm ground under our feet. But the universe, life itself, often feels much more like that water.
Precisely. Imagine you've spent your whole life on what feels like dry land. You're used to standing firm, holding on to things, having control. Then suddenly, life throws you into the deep end. You're in the water. What's your first instinct?
Panic. Try to stand up, grab something, fight it.
Right. You flail, you struggle against the current because that's what feels natural on land. But in water, that leads to drowning. And Watts connected this directly to what he called the waters of modern philosophical confusion. This feeling maybe that old certainties, God, absolute truths, whatever, they seem to have dissolved.
Leaving us feeling like there's nothing solid to hold on to anymore, adrift.
Exactly, feeling like we're just sort of falling apart because the ground we thought was solid isn't there.
That feeling is so relatable when things get tough, when life feels chaotic. So what's the key insight here? How do we navigate that?
The key insight, the Zen insight perhaps, is that the only way to survive in that water, in that fluid reality, is to learn how to swim.
Okay. And how do you swim?
You have to do the exact opposite of your drowning instinct. You have to relax. You have to let go. Give yourself to the water. Breathe with it. Move with it.
Stop fighting it.
Stop fighting it.
Yeah.
And when you do that, something amazing happens. The very water that seemed like a threat, it holds you up. It supports you. And in a very real way, you realize you are the water. You were never separate. You become part of that flow. It's about alignment, not resistance.
Yeah.
True security comes from that adaptable trust, not rigid control.
Wow. That really does mirror so many of our everyday struggles, doesn't it? That constant urge to control, to force things, to grasp, instead of just letting go a bit and trusting the process, trusting that, well, maybe we will be supported.
It's a deep-seated habit, that resistance to what is.
So, okay, if we embrace this fluidity, this water-like nature of the universe,
Yeah.
that seems to lead us towards thinking about the energy behind it all.
Yeah.
And if we absolutely had to try and put Zen into some kind of concept, even knowing the limits, you could say it's about this one great energy, right? Something that doesn't really have a fixed name, but is everything. People have tried naming it, of course, God, Brahman, Tao. But like Watts said, especially God in the West comes with so much baggage, so many funny associations.
Right. Those preconceived ideas can actually block the direct experience, which is why Watts sometimes pointed to a Buddhist term, ta-ta-ta.
Ta-ta-ta. How does that translate?
It's often translated as suchness or thusness. Watts had this lovely way of explaining its possible origin, like a baby's first sound, da-da-da, which just points. That. You're it. Just that. The universe is one ta-ta-ta, which means it contains all the 10,000 functions, the 10,000 things, everything you see, hear, experience, but it's all just expressions of the single, simple suchness. They are the suchness. We are the suchness.
It bypasses all the complicated ideas and just points to the...
Exactly. It's a direct pointing.
But if it's all one suchness, how do we explain all the change? The ups and downs, the good times, the bad times, things appearing and disappearing.
That's the next layer. This suchness comes and goes. Because the universe, the way reality manifests, is fundamentally an on and off system.
On and off. Like a light switch.
Kind of. Think of the ancient Chinese idea of yin and yang. It's a rhythm, a pulse. It's now you see it, now you don't. Here you are, here you aren't. That's the nature of energy itself. It flows in waves, right? Crests and troughs, activity and rest.
Okay, so waves have crests and troughs. On requires off.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But here's where we get ourselves into trouble. We often operate under this, illusion, this sort of sleepiness, where we imagine that one side of the pair, say, the trough, the darkness, the off, is somehow going to win. That it's going to finally overcome the crest, the light, the on.
Right. We worry that the bad times will last forever, that the off switch will get stuck.
Exactly. We get caught up fearing the off moments, the dark times, as if there's some kind of final defeat, some permanent state that's going to take over.
So we're essentially tormenting ourselves.
We really are. We tremble thinking darkness will win or suffering will extinguish joy. But look at death, for example. From this perspective, death isn't the end of energy. It's just the other face of energy.
The other face.
Yeah. It's the rest that makes activity possible. Just like you can't have a solid object without the space around it or experience space without solid objects within it. They define each other.
So without dark, no light. Without silence, no sound.
Without suffering, no joy. They aren't enemies fighting it out. They're partners in an eternal dance. They create each other. It's the pulse of the one suchness, the on and off rhythm of everything.
So all that worry we have, that constant anxiety that the dark side, the off part, might somehow win out.
Right.
It's based on a misunderstanding. We're tormenting ourselves over something that's just the way things work.
Fundamentally, yes. It's like worrying that the exhale will permanently defeat the inhale. It's a misunderstanding of the basic rhythm of life.
And if we can really start to see that, to feel that interconnectedness, that rhythm, and what happens to us then? When we stop, clinging so hard, trying to control everything, resisting that natural flow, it feels like that's where the liberation comes in.
It absolutely is. When you genuinely wake up to this, when you see that the more it changes, the more it's the same thing, meaning All the changing forms are just this one energy playing terror. You realize something profound.
Yeah.
You realize that you are a playing of this one energy. You're not separate from the dance. You are the dance. You are that. You are the suchness expressing itself as you, and you can't be anything else.
Wow.
And that realization, when it really sinks in, is what relieves what Watts called fundamental terror.
Fundamental terror. Can you say more about that? Does it mean we stop feeling scared altogether?
Yeah.
Become superhuman?
No, not at all. It doesn't mean you become some kind of unfeeling statue. You'll still jump if there's a loud noise. You might worry about paying the bills. You might feel anger or grief. Those are human responses.
Okay.
But the difference is, as Watts put it, fundamentally deep down within you, you will be able to be human without being totally consumed or defined by those fears or anxieties. The fear is there, but it doesn't penetrate to that core understanding of your true nature.
So you feel the feelings. They don't overwhelm your basic sense of okayness.
Exactly. You understand they are part of the on and off, part of the play. There's a wonderful quote from Chuang Tzu, sometimes called Zhangge. He said, "The perfect man employs his mind as a mirror.
A mirror.
It grasps nothing, it refuses nothing, it receives but does not keep."
That's beautiful. It reflects whatever's there, but doesn't try to hold on to the reflection or push it away.
Precisely. And that is the heart of living without hang-ups. Being able to drift like a cloud, flow like water, seeing all of life, including yourself, as this magnificent illusion, not fake, but like a magical display, a play of energy. When you see that, you realize deep down, there is absolutely nothing fundamentally to be afraid of. You're part of the flow. And the flow is just doing its eternal on and off thing. You are the universe playing the part of you.
So connecting this back, it's really not about escaping reality or becoming indifferent. It sounds more like embracing reality more fully, but without that heavy backpack of fear and resistance we usually carry around. Those hang-ups we create ourselves.
That's it, exactly. It's incredibly freeing.
But I can hear a listener thinking, okay, sounds great, flow like water, be like a mirror, but I have a job, kids, responsibilities. How does this letting go work in a world that seems to demand control and planning?
That's a really important practical question, and the key is that Zen, or this way of being, isn't about becoming passive or irresponsible. It's not don't plan, don't act. It's about the quality of your planning and acting.
Okay, the quality. How so?
You still make plans, you still take action, you still meet your responsibilities, but you do it without that desperate, anxious clinging to specific outcomes you can't actually control. You do your part with skill and attention, but you trust the larger flow for the rest.
Like rowing a boat, you still row, you put in effort, but you work with the current, not desperately against it.
Beautifully put, yes. Skillful action aligned with the flow, rather than frantic resistance against it.
That makes sense. Okay, so bringing all these ideas together, Zen as direct experience, the universe as water, life as this on-off dance, freedom through letting go of fear. How can we, actually taste this? How can we practice this no hang-ups way in our regular busy lives?
Well, there's some very simple, accessible ways. First, and we touched on this, is to consciously let go of words sometimes.
How do you mean?
Just stop trying to explain and define every single thing. Allow yourself moments of just sitting in silence, just experiencing whatever's happening inside or out without needing to immediately slap a label on it or analyze it. Just let it be.
Be present without narrating.
Exactly. It's not about never speaking, but about recognizing the power of wordless presence. Second, actively trust the flow. When life throws you that curveball, when things feel chaotic or don't go according to your plan, consciously bring that water metaphor to mind. Remember, you don't push the river.
You float with it.
You float with it. Resist that urge to tighten up, to frantically control. Lean back into the current, metaphorically speaking, and trust that it will carry you. Remember that even the difficult parts, the troughs, are part of the necessary rhythm. This builds real resilience.
Okay, let go of words sometimes. Trust the flow.
Mm-hmm.
What's the third?
The third is perhaps the most central. Live the ordinary. Zen isn't hidden away in monasteries or achieved only through grand gestures. It's right here. Like Watt said, it's peeling potatoes, washing dishes, walking slowly. Find the extraordinary in the ordinary. By doing those simple everyday things with your full attention, without the mental clutter, without the hang-ups, when you're fully present with peeling a potato, the whole universe is right there in that act. There's no separation. The universe is the potato, the peeling, your hands, your breath. It is you doing that simple thing.
So every moment becomes an opportunity.
Every single moment.
That really brings it down to earth. And it raises a great question for you listening right now. In your day, just today, could you maybe let go of trying to define or push or escape, and instead just be, even for a minute? So as we wrap up this deep dive, the core message seems to be this. Trusting the universe is about waking up to what Alan Watts called the magnificent illusion of energy. Not illusion as in fake, but illusion like a magical play, a dynamic, flowing reality that we are completely, utterly part of.
And the freedom that comes from that is immense. It's the freedom of living without hangups, without that deep fundamental fear that arises when we resist the way things actually are. It's finding that ability to, yes, float like a cloud, drift freely, and really dance with the great rhythm of existence, knowing, truly knowing, there's nothing you need to fundamentally be afraid of. You are the dancer and the dance. So the invitation is, let go.
Yeah.
Trust the universe, and maybe, just maybe, discover that you aren't separate from it at all. You are the universe, flowing as you. And perhaps a final thought to ponder. If, as the poet William Blake suggested, energy is eternal delight, how might seeing yourself not as a struggling individual, but as a unique playing of this one eternal energy, how might that change how you experience life's inevitable, constant on and off moments? What unexpected delight might be found not just on the peaks, but maybe even in the valleys?
Thank you for being here with us at Yuno and Kenzo Koga, where ancient wisdom meets modern life.
Subscribe now and join us on this journey of awakening. If this resonates, tap like and share it with someone who would appreciate a moment of peace today. And feel free to share any thoughts or reflections in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.